guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. One of the things I want to talk today about is transition. So the dictionary defines transition as the process or period of changing from one state or condition to another, right? Transition pretty much is just a change. It's a change from I'm leaving from what I know to be the familiar and I'm going on to something new. A baby transitions from the womb into reality. A lot of times people transition from college, they graduate and they go out into the real world, right? However, there's a little gray area there with transition where I'm leaving the familiar, I'm leaving what I have history with, and I'm going into the unknown. However, I just don't know what that unknown is. So because what I left is actually progress, it's actually a step up. I'm comfortable where I'm at afterwards, and I want to stay right there. I want to talk about that little gray space, right? So the podcast is all about encouraging you, making sure that you go forward, making sure that you are the best person, that you are actually doing what you are meant to do. You are actually doing what you are called to do. With that being said, obviously you can't stop, right? You can't stop when it gets comfortable. You can't stop in complacency. And so you have to understand and you have to never forget. I say this all the time. Each day that you're here for a reason, right? And I say that with like true meaning. There are a lot of people that wish that they were in your shoes. They wish they had what you had, right? It may not seem that you're making a lot of progress in your eyes, but you actually are. And I'm going to go a little bit further and even say, where you're at right now, what you may think you're going through, rather it's bad or it's good or maybe mind-blogging, a lot of people died. A lot of people didn't make it, but you did. So when you're transitioning, you want to just think that it's like a graduating moment, right? Neighborhoods, what they call gentrification, what you know to be a neighborhood, landmarks have been there for like 20, 30 years. Now all of a sudden, they're turned into something else. The land is still there. The land is still the same, but the buildings, the scenery is not the same anymore. They have now transitioned into something new. Sometimes it may be an apartment building that transitioned now to a Starbucks. Things change. So one of the things that I like to do when I feel like I'm going through a transition, so that way I don't lose my way, I don't lose focus, is that I like to write down my thoughts. I like to write down my goals, right? And so the middle could be a little murky. You're leaving the familiar, you're leaving what you know, you're graduating actually, and you're going into something, it's the unknown. And like the church always says, I'm leaving from what I used to know and I don't know where I'm going, but I'm happy I ain't where I used to be, right? And so I like to write down my goals. Vision board is key. Vision board actually works. Post it somewhere so that way you don't forget it. Some place that you can almost see it every day. Or you can write down your goals. I like to put mine in the notes on my iPhone and everything. What you don't want to do is to get comfortable, right? Because transition is temporary. So you don't want to get comfortable in where you're at. And a lot of times people lose to comfortability. And one thing that comfortable screams to me is familiar. It screams safe and it screams routine. And if I have a routine life, to me, I have a boring life. I'm not moving. Don't get me wrong. Now, during this point, what you don't want to do is look to your left and look to your right. You don't want to look at the people that surround you because guess what? They probably like where they're at. They probably like living in that neighborhood. They probably like living in that relationship. They probably like going on that job every day. That's probably what they like. You cannot compare yourself to others. And with transition, people feel stuck. What I like to do personally, there's 3 things that when I feel stuck, I always go to these 3 things to see if I'm on the right track. I look at location, I look at timing, and I look at people. If something's not going the way I want to, it's probably one of these 3 elements that's taking place in my life, right? One of the things that I like to do is to watch Netflix. I love documentaries. And I like to watch Netflix, especially those that have been in prison for a long time. And then they get out, they move on the other side of the country and their life blossoms. They become this person that, far from who they was inmate 56498 from years ago, right? And I remember not too long ago, I took a trip to New Orleans and the bus driver was talking to me, and he was telling me how he had an uncle who was a felon. He did a long sentence in prison there in New Orleans. And he said when he got released, he moved to Georgia, and not even that long, he now owns and runs 3 businesses. And he said he left and he never looked back. And I'm pretty sure during that transition that he had coming out of prison and moving or deciding what he's going to do with his life, leaving what was familiar to him, leaving the old, I'm pretty sure he had to change his circle of friends and change his location. And him getting out of prison probably was the right time for him to do so if he had never done that once before. You have to leave as sometimes you may not have to go and move to another state, but in your state of mind where you at, you don't want to have to be routine. We don't want to have to guess what you're doing, right? And I say that because people get comfortable in the transition because they figured, oh, look, I graduated from college and I'm going out in the real world. I'm going to stay right here. I'm not going to do no greater and I'm not going to do no less, which is not actually so. You have a lot of potential in you. You will be surprised at the gifts that you have on the inside of you if you just get out there and do. If you just stop being it's okay to be an introvert or whatever, but it's not okay to stay an island. It's not okay to stay isolated when you have so much in you. Listen, I say this all the time. If you're here for a reason. Because to be honest with you, a lot of people ain't make it. A lot of people went through what you went through. They ain't make it. You know, they're not here. I was talking to somebody one time and they were talking about not how bad life was, but, they were just pretty down about life and stuff. And I said, listen, you had COVID and survived when it was healthy young people that was dying from it. You have a dream job that a lot of people are not qualified for, that a lot of people cannot quit. You have a second chance in life at love after a divorce, that a lot of people are miserable, that a lot of people are depressed and wish that they had somebody right there to love again. So I say that because you are here for a reason. And some of y'all are here for a bad reason. No, I'm joking. Some people are here for a good example, and some people are just here just to serve as a bad example. It is what it is, But this podcast is all about encouraging you. It's all about lifting you up, and it's also about you getting out there and doing what you're supposed to do, doing what you love. I mentioned 3 things whenever you feel stuck to look at: timing, location, and people. I'm going to talk about people for a second because people plays a big role in our lives. Like I said, don't look at what everybody else is doing because they may be comfortable where they're at. People are either going to take you to your destiny or they're going to take you to your death. You show me 5 of your friends and I'm going to show you who you are. If you got 5 broke friends, you're going to be the 6th one. I believe that success is contagious, right? I knew somebody who was a smoker. They were a heavy smoker, and nobody in their household was a heavy smoker like they was. And I asked, I'm like, where do you even pick up this habit from? Well, they had a relative who smoked like a chimney all day and all night because was the person that they was around, even though this person did not physically leave in their house. And I'm a big believer that, what people's habits, good and bad habits, can rub off on you. This is why I say, if your mindset is, I know I'm working this job, I know I got this career job, but this is what I did. Having a food truck is really what I want to do. I want to open up a nonprofit is really what I want to do. And I know my friends, they really not, they're not into that. They're trying to get their pension and stuff like that. Then you get around like-minded people. It's okay. Keep your friends if you want to, but get around somebody that's going to push you. Get around, sometimes you meet the right people in life and they are actually a door to where you're going. They're actually an open door or answer to where you're trying to be, because time is moving. And I'm a stickler for time. I don't like to waste time. I try not to procrastinate. Listen, we started 2024 just a few days ago. We already in mid-February. This time is not waiting on anybody. And don't get scared. It's nothing to be. Don't get comfortable because you're scared and you don't know what's up ahead. Guess what? We all don't know what's going to happen next. So you can't stop where you're at. You're going to have to be the one. You're going to have to take that leap and do like me. If you fail, you ain't got to tell nobody. Don't nobody have to know. But you do got to move forward, right? You don't want to be complacent. You got to be an example for your children. You got to be an example to your peers. You got to be an example to the mailman that you may talk to every once in a while, that you say hey to on the Ring camera. You got to be able to, this is your life. This ain't nobody's life but yours. You are where you at right now because of the decisions that you made. Nobody put you there. You put yourself there. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up the podcast with this. Don't be scared. Don't be comfortable. Don't be predictable. Use your time wisely. You may not get another opportunity to come back around. This time it's not coming back again. Write down your goals. Read your goals. Fuel your goals. Find something that you like that's goal oriented. But you cannot stop. Nobody will never know how much work you put in if you stop. Nobody will never know that you was working on that project, that you was working on that idea if you stop. How are we going to know? You don't have nothing to show for it. You stopped.